Play Watch Listen is a mostly game development podcast from game developers Mike Bithell, Austin Wintory, and ALANAH Pierce. It's brought to you by our supporters on Patreon, who are the reason this channel exists, and especially the reason we're able to make episodes like this one that are so far from topical, there's basically no way to make them appealing to a YouTube audience. Thankfully, we don't have to worry about that. Patrons also got this episode early, ad-free, and unedited with an extra 5 minutes at the top of the episode. But whether you support us on Patreon or not, we hope you enjoy the episode.
Have you heard about Clavicular? Has he made his way to your household?
I am more fascinated by weird internet fads than I care to publicly usually address, but I'm very aware of Clavicular because I've been fascinated by him for a while.
So
yes,
I don't know a lot about Clavicular, but I have my group chat of my
that's
girlfriends.
the right amount to know about Clavicular, to be clear.
I'm terminally
It's the
offline
right
these days and quite happy with
That's
it.
good.
And I started
That's
playing
healthy.
chess instead.
Yeah.
But my group of girlfriends who aren't really terminally online. There's like 5 of us in a group chat. So often if they need information about somebody on the internet, they ask me who Hassan Piker was. And I go, got it. And who Ethan Klein was. And I go, got it. Clavicular, they said the same thing where they're all like, I'm so fascinated by this man. That like,
he's a sociological outcome rather than a human being. That's the thing. Oh, sorry, he's a human being. Empathy. But he's a sociological outcome.
And he said something the other day that one of them shared, I think, that someone asked him why he doesn't get into relationships to have a long-term relationship. And he said, what's the ROI on that? Which is also, because his brain is ruined, he's really funny.
Yeah.
But
well,
that's
the thing is with all these guys, with anyone who your group chat would be asking you who this is, by definition, they're a charismatic, interesting person, right? On some level.
Yeah, I think Hassan Piker and Ethan Klein is because they would have been trending when they had a feud, so they probably just like caught a name and didn't know what was going on. Whereas I think Clavicular, who they call Clav, is probably, I don't know, he seems to have like gone outside of streamer culture at the very least, but I don't really know how it happened.
I think it's like Tiger King, right? It's the freak show. It's just that's the guy. There's like a guy we nominate every few months. We nominate like a new guy,
the main character,
someone who like everyone can agree is weird and funny because they're weird. But with him, like genuinely, like the ROI thing, like that is very funny, but at the same time, like
deeply
we
concerning.
have trained that generation to think about everything in that way. Like dating apps and the way society is structured now and the way that dating is structured, you can understand he's come to all the wrong conclusions, but you can understand how by creating that place, and to be fair, that environment was created by my generation making the apps that he uses, right? Like we are to blame. Like we created this.
I never even considered
I think there were a lot of these guys.
You're right that apps, the structure of the way that they work and how competitive they are, not that dating isn't inherently competitive, but that it made it actively competitive.
I heard someone say, this isn't an original thought, I heard this, I can't remember where I heard this, but I heard someone say that basically we've turned dating for that generation into like a job, basically, or a kind of a side hustle, effectively, like by creating the incentive systems that we have in those apps and in the way that those work. And then you layer on the kind of the right-wing influence stuff that's very much like trying the whole tradwife stuff and all that stuff. Like you can see how that funnel gets, boys, let's be honest, like teenagers who've, maybe been rejected by one girl that they had a crush on for a year and they finally told her and she rejected them, and then they're angry and confused and frustrated, and then we put them into this funnel.
We capitalismed dating.
Well, yeah. I mean, and if you listen to what that kid's saying, that is the shit he's saying. Is it's all thinking of everything as, like you say, like ROI or how do I compete in the marketplace? And he's wrong. I want to be really clear. I think everything he's saying is wrong, but he is competing in the marketplace. Yeah, there is an app. He has been trained since puberty to believe that there is, that everything's numerical, everything's metrics. Think about like, the average, like, a big YouTuber, right? Obsessing over their numbers. And does this video go, like, it's all of that thinking is being applied to dating now. And is, I'm very glad I did the old-fashioned way of like seeing a girl I liked in a bar and going up to her. Like that
Is
was
that how you guys met?
that feels alien. We have different versions of the story. I think of myself as the protagonist who approached her. She very much reminds me that she was the person who initiated because I'm a nerd. But yes, yeah. No, like just in a traditional way. We just met.
Yeah, I've never been on a dating app before.
Social media, yeah. Yeah.
That
that seems
crazy.
to be, statistically, that's still the best, like the most likely, you are more likely to end up, I think I read this, like, with a life partner via friendship or work or the traditional ways.
Yeah,
basically.
Rahul and I were friends before. We dated for a while. Yeah, pretty long time. I can't imagine actually not doing that.
Let's cling to our long-term relationships.
Yeah, or just be single. Like, to be totally honest, if Rahul and I broke up, I would just not do that. Like, I would still just be like, either I'm going to meet someone organically or I'm going to die alone. Welcome, Austin. And I'm fine
Aren't
with
we
it.
all gonna die alone?
Wow.
What's your view on Clavicular?
Yeah,
Austin?
are you updated on Clav?
Nope.
Okay, well.
Do you know who that is even? Are you aware of
I
who
hear
we're
that
talking
name
about?
thrown around, and I was under the impression there was some drama, but I make it a point to not look at stuff like that. So I don't know what's the capsule summary.
Austin remains the most well-balanced and smartest person on the podcast.
Yeah,
Like, that's the
most
right level of
cultured.
engagement.
Yeah.
That's
I
the
don't
right
know
level
that
of
I would say
engagement.
that he's not famous because of drama, though. Clavicular is an incel who took the advice
Sort of a dramatic premise
from
at
the
least.
incel subreddits incredibly seriously regarding looks maxing and
Oh, this does fit. Is this
muscle
all the like
maxing?
weird surgery shit? And-
yes.
Yeah. Okay. I
Hammering
did
your
hear.
jawbone and stuff.
Yes.
and
Yes,
jazz,
I did
yeah.
hear in a roundabout way, and was kind of like, that seems insane.
Yep.
But that was now that
You
now
only think
I've
that because
exhausted
you're
my
an
full
alpha
knowledge.
male, Austin. That's why you're kind of a giga chad, and
Yeah.
that creates.
Many have said this
that's-
about
that's
you.
what-
Without a
That's what it is.
Yeah. Many have said this about you.
You're blind to it because you're competing in the marketplace of the dating
Successfully.
pool. You're
Well,
a high
actually-
value male.
However,
All correct.
he is married. Austin, what's the ROI on marriage?
The ROI.
Yeah.
Well, in what sense? In any sense?
Any.
Yeah. Pick one.
Well, it's nice to it's nice to weather the highs and lows of life with someone that has an invested interest in the outcome. That alone is probably makes it a pass the threshold
So boring.
on the ROI.
Sounds gay.
Yeah, it
It's
sounds
very
very gay. Sounds very gay.
It's I will say that the American tax code definitely incentivizes it heavily.
That's
Fair.
true.
That's fair.
Pretty substantial, like wildly different tax brackets when you're
Saves a
filing
lot of
jointly.
legal challenges around inheritance. It's useful for that as well. Yeah.
There's also that sort of
Yeah.
thing that if I want my savings to go to Anhila if I die, that is a pretty easily facilitated thing when there's marriage. It also made her green card stuff way easier. I mean, essentially not even easier. It's what made it possible.
Logistical benefits. Logistical benefits.
So yeah, it's kind of all, top to bottom. Are you saying this? Is this? Am I stepping into a marriage skepticism conversation?
No,
Is
not
that-
at all.
No.
Clavicular, someone asked him.
2 out of 3 of us are married, so it
Yeah,
makes
no,
sense
you're
that
fine.
we'll be on the side of marriage. Yeah.
Well, I love that this podcast is so vague that we could genuinely be talking about that at any point in time.
You're like, and those are my thoughts on
That's
007
why I'm
First Light.
divorcing
Get
Kerry and
married.
I'm announcing it on the podcast. Yeah, that's his.
No, someone asked Clavicular why he hasn't pursued a long-term relationship and all he does is like sleep with women. He doesn't pursue relationships, and he said, "What's the ROI on that?" It's his genuine
on
answer.
a relationship.
Yep, on a long-term
I mean,
relationship.
I can understand saying that if you've never experienced it, but like if you,
Yeah.
because if all you know is surface level interactions, and that's reasonably, satisfying in its own right. It's kind of like if all I've ever had is salads, and somebody is like, "Dude, soup is amazing." If I'm perfectly happy with salads, it's kind of like, well, nothing's broken necessarily in my setup, but
but I don't.
but
because
there's no
I don't
question
know how
I'm
good
missing
soup
out.
is. Yeah.
yeah, I have a blind spot, you know? So I don't fault that, although typically, how old is he?
20,
Early 20s.
3?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no
Something
idea.
like that.
Yeah.
Look.
So I was going to say that sounds like the kind of thing someone would say
In their
when they
early
just
20s.
haven't experienced much life in general yet. Cause like
He's 20.
when 20,
Yeah.
Jesus, when you,
That makes me
when
feel
you-
bad about taking the mick out of him. Like, that's a child. I feel bad about
yeah, that really is a child.
No, he knows what
Yeah.
he's doing. He knows what he's doing.
He knows what he's doing.
I do think, like, I think about this somewhat often in general anyway,
I don't
though.
know
Like,
that he does, for the record. I think if at 40, he would probably look back and go, I didn't know what I was doing.
sorry, yes. What I mean by that, actually, more so, is he's influencing other people to do it, which makes me feel less sympathetic. But I will say, with people like him and also Kanye, and I guess also Britney Spears, I do often look at them and you see this, like, a person who is clearly dealing with, like, insane mental illness. And I wonder what it is about mankind in general that makes us so compelled to observe that and be entertained by it, rather than, like, the fact we don't have a system set up to be like, that person clearly needs help. There's just no system. We just keep watching. There's no one's ever built anything to be like, Kanye West has clearly lost his mind and we should stop paying attention to him and instead he should get some help. But we don't.
I mean,
Well,
the anthropological thing would be that it bonds us as a society. Like, and that's the scare. That's where it gets gross and terrifying, right?
Oh,
Is the
because we're not to them?
ostracization. Like we are three people who've just had like a 15-minute conversation about this guy and how weird he is, and that's arguably boosting our thing. There's we are social creatures, so the idea would be that ostracizing a minority puts the majority together, which is a horrible thing to think about, and obviously has lots of terrible connotations. But I wouldn't be surprised if that's what
Plenty of terrible things that humans do. Yeah, I mean, the fact that people used to watch public hangings and stonings and stuff is incomprehensible. But I kind of feel like people being cancelled online is the modern equivalent to that, where everyone loves watching it happen because they go, "But it's not me, is it? Look how safe I am. Couldn't be me."
I think part of that, if I suspect what the kind of evolutionary biology literature would suggest, as someone who casually follows some people who know that world. Obviously, I don't in any depth, but my impression is that the in-group, out-group dynamics, as Mike, you say, that's sort of core to our evolutionary survival and our history and that the challenge that we're facing and will probably forever face from this point forward is that we evolved with much smaller units of humans as the seeming optimum for that social dynamic. And as soon as we started making civilizations where that sort of those instincts scale or don't particularly successfully scale, rather, is where we start running into these tensions. Like, for example, the in-group, out-group instinct is probably wildly helpful if you need to rely on 15 people where at any given moment you're just trying to hold off death for everyone. As a social species, we're like long, we make one very resource intensive child at a time. It's not like we lay eggs that have 500 babies and some are going to die. And, that's just, it's a numbers game. Like,
someone has really high. And if you have someone who's not contributing, that's a significant problem to everyone's survival.
Yeah. And like for mothers with newborns, obviously it's a full-time position, particularly in a subsistence living pre-civilization period. So it makes sense that high amount of social trust in a group dynamic is core to why the species has proliferated. And
so
why we
it's
have
still
strong
something
instincts.
we have as a survival instinct, but it's no longer particularly
I'd go
relevant.
further though. I think what it's evolved
It's not that it's not relevant. I think it's just an unavoidable instinct. I think it has its relevancy. Like we choose family. Sorry, Mike, I don't make it, but hold that thought just 1 second. Cool. We choose family. We're generally more loyal to family than to strangers or long-term close friends. I think that's a good thing, broadly speaking.
Yeah.
Obviously plenty of exceptions of it. So I wouldn't even say it's no longer relevant, as if all human beings need to be treated as fundamentally equal in our life. Like there will be people we hold in higher regard. We would sacrifice more for some people than for other people. Like that's all still a good thing on net, I would think.
I suppose what I mean by no longer relevant is no longer applicable to a lot of the situations in which we apply it. I don't think that it's useful in terms of us all watching Clavicular with fascination. It doesn't contribute to my survival. You know what I mean?
It to me, it's vaguely analogous. This is probably a deeply flawed analogy, but the first thing that comes to mind is it's like for us to be able to operate in zero gravity, we have to build all kinds of stuff to make that a baseline proposition. Our limbs are not like we can't move, we can't breathe, we can't deal with radiation. Like every single thing about that environment requires us to kind of build tools, essentially. And I feel like social media is the social equivalent of putting humans in zero gravity. It's just we're not wired for dealing with more than a few dozen or maybe 100 people. Like there were people until more than 100 years ago, a little more than 100 years ago. The number of people you would meet in your entire life for the average person was probably in the thousands or hundreds even. I mean, I would be curious to look up I'm sure there's actual estimates along those, but just logically it would seem small town, small community. Anyway, Mike, you were about to say something. Sorry.
Oh no, I everything you're saying, I agree with. I think though, I don't know, maybe I'm more cynical. I think as well,
you are
though,
British.
Yeah, I don't think it's just a hangover of an old behavior. I genuinely do think that ostracization as a bonding process for the in-group is something that is a natural thing that humans do for the positive outcome of bonding. I don't think it's just let's get rid of Steve, he's shit at shooting arrows. I think it's also let's all hang out and have a fun time talking about how much Steve sucks, and that will bring us together. And I think you see that in like reality TV. You see that in the conversation about Clavicular or anyone like the cancellation
all the time.
Like,
yeah,
I think it's not just about the removing something that's someone who's bad from the in-group. I think it also is used as a bonding process for the in-group. Look at like the weird communities that spring up around like hating a particular pop culture thing, right? Like or like a pop culture even rather than a person, like people who are really angry about Star Wars, usually for 7,000 different reasons, right? They are bonding socially. They are finding common ground and enjoying each other's company while having that negativity. It's a weird thing those negative emotions do serve a bonding process. It's not healthy necessarily. It's not good. I don't agree with a lot of it, but like, I do think that's part of the human condition as well.
I did read something the other day that said the easiest way to build an online community, like incels or a particular subreddit or whatever, a community of people who like continuously commune, and will effectively build loyalty to each other over the internet, is to hate something. Like the easiest way to
the irony is
band together is to create an enemy.
Incels was originally a joke, right? Like I think it was like a lesbian woman who was describing herself online as an incel, like in a jokey way of I'm voluntarily celibate.
No way.
I think this might be garbled by my memory, but I think it was like a thing that kind of turned into like then guys appropriating that.
Which is crazy because they're not
sorry.
celibate.
Apologies. I've got an ROI on being married here. My wife's explaining it to me. What were you saying, Kerry? It was a support group. It was a support group for people who were having dating problems, right? But like for women, not for men, right? Originally. Like a yeah. So there you go. And then of course men came in and ruined it. That's basically I think what happened. Yeah. There you go. See, there's an ROI research.
Worth it. Double the brain.
How useful.
Done. I think I suspect what you're describing. I would be curious to learn what the kind of hypotheses are of what primordial, like if we accept the premise is true that one of the manifestations of that social bonding is around some kind of negative thing. Like an easy one to imagine is most of us look at someone very ill and feel repelled. We don't immediately switch into a compassion mode. And it makes sense if you think about it, like get the sick person away. They're going to take all the rest of us down with them kind of thing. If you trace that in an evolutionary sense.
That is true and uncomfortable to think about, but you're absolutely right. If you see someone sick, usually your instinct is to be grossed out.
To cover your face.
Yeah.
It's like when people smell vomit and it makes them vomit. You know what I mean? Like it completely involuntarily. Not everyone's the same. And some people have a powerfully compassionate response to
and
this
they're the
kind
most
of thing.
important people, and we should look after them and give them all the resources we can. We need those
pretty
people.
helpful.
Yeah.
But the idea that a kind of the value of a social bonding around a negative stimulus, I would be curious to know if that is analogous to how, for example, most humans to varying degrees have a sweet tooth, because fruits and things that were naturally sweet were decent food sources, and obviously those evolutionarily evolved to be sweet, to encourage things to eat them, to move the seeds around, mostly animals obviously.
You can map it on the tongue. You can go for the different things that we can taste.
Right.
Like each of them corresponds with something, but all of those things, right? It's what you're saying is if I do something sweet, then that means it's going to probably be fibrous. It's probably going to have vitamins. If something's salty, that's going to imply blah, blah, blah. If it's fatty, that's, meat, which has protein. Like it's these kind of triggers that are tricking us into eating things that are good for us that you can obviously hack immediately by just giving us bad things.
Well, and that's exactly what I was going to say, is that we evolved in a world where sweet things were considerably, first off, less sweet and much more rare. And so it's a classic manifestation of, despite the overwhelming benefits of building a civilization from, primordial caveman times, we now crave things that it taken without moderation, and the doses for which our systems were kind of evolved to handle, you can get yourself wildly unhealthy, despite the fact that your body naturally wants this thing, right?
Monkeys with bad ankles and anxiety, basically.
Yeah. So
and sodium cravings, which I read this so long ago that I wouldn't know if it's true or not, but supposedly the reason that you'll often find yourself craving salt, like I just want a packet of chips, is because salt is quite rare to find. So it was actually very infrequent that caveman times, back in Game of Thrones times, that people would actually encounter salt. So it's a really regular craving because it's like our bodies haven't quite evolved to realize that salt is readily available and you can have it at any point in time. It's a frequent craving because it was rare.
It's easy to, my intuition tells me that we would not crave it much when it was rare because there would be very little to find of it. Although I don't know anything about the salt case. I've just read about the sugar one. Either way, the point is it's really easy to overindulge in a thing that we were not sort of wired, as it were, to handle. And it makes me think that it might be similar, that building a group around hating something might have been relatively rare in early days, like just almost like a luxury you couldn't afford most of the time. We really had to bond over other reasons, but occasionally it would be valuable for the ouster of a bad actor.
It's like a secondary outcome is what you're saying. It's kind of a...
Maybe.
I get where you're coming from.
It makes sense to me that in the same way that our systems evolved in a world where, highly processed, refined, ultra sweet sugar was not available, and its far more diluted, rare precursor was, and therefore it's really easy for us to overindulge. Similarly might be that, these social instincts are kind of wildly blown into proportions that our system is sort of just not intrinsically made to handle. That there absolutely is a social benefit.
Sorry, we certainly don't have the emotional maturity or capacity to even comprehend the amount of people that we have access to now. That is, we are just definitely, social media progressed so fast that there's no way that we've adapted to that correctly. Like I don't even...
No, and given the hard wiring of evolutionary instincts, that's a thing that very realistically we will never
actually catch up to.
Given thousands of years. I mean, I would think you would need millions of years, or at least hundreds of, or like a million years of regularly interacting with people on that scale to kind of actually evolve just fundamentally different. Like we would become a different species at some point over that kind of time horizon. That is more ant-like or something, where we're just accustomed to tens of thousands of simultaneous
I'm watching a good
interactions.
documentary called Pluribus, which kind of covers some of this. That's a good idea. Yeah, that's good.
Speaking of which, I did Google it. Difficult to find out how many people the average person met 100 years ago. The cursory Google basically is like, well, no one really studied it back then, so we're kind of guessing, but it was estimated to be like 150. Whereas now, you are estimated to meet around 80,000 people.
I mean, I have 150. I think if I sat down for a day with a piece of paper, I could probably write down 150 names of people I have had a meaningful interaction with.
So this is a thing called Dunbar's number that I've not heard of before.
Yeah.
Dunbar's
I don't have
number.
150 good friends, but I definitely have 150 acquaintances, right? Like that I would be able to.
People that you regularly interact with. It says Dunbar's number, which I'd never heard of before, is a suggested cognitive limit of about 150 people with whom an individual can maintain a stable or meaningful social relationship. So apparently we can have that even seems high.
Well, that's not friends, but that's like people. That's like, if anyone who's watching this,
I guess I could count my barista.
If you reply, but like also just like on social media, like it's someone who replies to my tweets twice a month and I recognize your avatar. I'd put you in the 150.
Meaningful,
I know you. It's meaningful in the sense that you've got the interaction, but obviously far fewer than that, like close friends, obviously.
The core is 5 people. Good friends is 15. People you see regularly but are less deeply tied to is 50, and your active network is 150, allegedly.
That tracks to me. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Interestingly,
Good work,
the
Dunbar.
second I typed Dunbar's number into Google, and the second, like the autofill on Google
is debunked.
And I clicked on that. And
this is like the 10,000 hours thing. When you look into that, it's absolute bollocks, but it should be real. That should be real.
It says that there's the ranges of people, the average of 150 was derived from a wildly massive range that would suggest that this number is way more variable. It's kind of like technically the average, if your number ranges from between 10 and 500, then yes, there's going to be a number that lands comfortably.
Well, okay,
as an average.
is that a debunk?
It's mean rather than mode, is what you're saying. Yeah,
but if he's averaging an average, what alternative do you have?
Well, I was going to say this with the medieval thing. Like when you think about like medieval people probably didn't have as many interactions as we do. It's like, I bet the traders did. I bet like if you were walking the Silk Road, going from town to town, and you had different businesses.
The priests certainly did.
And the priest certainly, like, you know what I mean? Like, I bet it was very variable. Like, I bet there was like, Dutu knows 3 people who work on the farm with him. And then there's like,
but those people, first off, through the truest lens of history, even medieval, we're talking relatively recent time compared to the majority of human history.
That's true.
And also, I think a priest or a trader represents a vanishingly small percentage of overall population. Most would be farmers or, other kind of like laborer types that would maintain far smaller, tighter circles. I would think they're not a hub around which people are forming. In general, I would think.
I try really hard because weirdly I find it really useful, like inspiration for like writing and world building stuff. I look at a lot of history stuff. And one of the things I really try and force myself to remember is we do have this instinct. This isn't dismissing anything you're saying. You're absolutely right about, especially about the vast history of humanity. But like, I try very hard not to fall into the trap of assuming people in the past were less than us, essentially. They were basically just us without phones. Right. So they were like the level of lived experience and scale of their lives and their experiences. It's and also as well the amount of disinformation. I heard a historian say recently, was it all research leads to a lying Victorian? Because basically in history, the amount of like romanticization that happened in the Victorian era around kind of medieval era or anywhere in basically the European history was so massively modulated and processed by the Victorians into the kind of romantic imagery we have of like chivalry and the Knights of the Round Table and Robin Hood and all of that stuff was kind of entirely repurposed and remanifested by the Romantic period of historians who basically sort of rewrote history to be more lovely, essentially, or more epic or more interesting.
I suspect that's not even, it feels a little uncharitable to call them lying Victorians, because I think that that's more just the pattern of the day more than like a nefarious effort.
Sure, it's glib,
I mean?
but yeah. I'm not looking to insult any Victorians. That's not what this show's for.
Apologies, Victorians.
Yeah, sorry, Victorians.
To your point, though, about we are fundamentally the same, I was in Italy a couple of weeks ago and went to Pompeii and had like a private tour with an archaeologist who works there. And it was unbelievable. I mean, it was like 6 hours of just mind-boggling information one after another. But one of the things that's so interesting and unique about Pompeii relative to lots of other, virtually all other, sort of lost sites of civilization throughout history, was that it was buried so immediately by ash that they even have, like, they have, the thing that struck me that prompted this is there was an active political campaign going on for the mayor position when the volcano blew. So there are painted on the side of buildings modern political political ads that strike one as rather modern. Because they're basically like, don't trust that asshole. And like because the Pompeii was a bit of a trade hub. There were a handful of brothels, and like the prestigious one, they were called like the Lion Ladies or something like that. And one of the political ads was boasting about having support of the Lion Ladies, almost as if they represented a guild. Like they had political influence in the town, and sort of the institution of that brothel was willing to kind of lend their name. As a side note, another hilarious thing that is perfectly preserved is you go in the brothel and kind of like a Chinese restaurant, because people would come from different areas that didn't all speak the same language. They have all these sex positions in like paintings.
You just point.
And you point at the, it's hilarious.
It is very cool. Like it would be a fascinating place to tour for sure.
It's the one that gets me is is like fast food places. I don't know if you visited any of those, but like in Pompeii, they had like just on street corners, not like what you'd imagine of like a guy with a cart, but like essentially like McDonald's. Just like we are a fast food joint with like the signage, like with the prices for different, they only do 8 things. It wasn't a proper restaurant. It would be like a fast food joint. That stuff, whenever I see anything like that, your brain just clicks on the fact of like, oh, I could live there.
You saying that phrase of like, you try not to view previous, I don't know how to phrase it, civilizations, whatever.
As lesser. People
as lesser made me try to reflect on if I do that. And I think I do. I think I go, like, and I don't know why. I wonder if even that's some kind of survival instinct that we tend to, like, I just tend to assume they were more simple because they were less advanced.
It's rooted. This is what I'm saying is it's rooted in the Victorian. There was basically once a lot of it actually comes from the obsession with evolution. Weirdly, is once evolution is first talked about and discussed, we go from historically people thinking the world was created in. Is it 7 days? It's been a while since I picked up a Bible. 7 days, right?
Yeah, sure.
Seventh day was for rest.
That's right. 6 days and a chill day.
And then God was like, I gotta take a nap. You guys just do fuck off, do whatever you want. Get the fuck out of my face.
I just did? I took those monkeys and I gave them anxiety. So, I stole that. That's a comic I read. We went from that to suddenly evolution, which then you get like very quickly we get to eugenics. Which is a whole other horrible thing. But you only have to look at like a great place to go is Crystal Palace, where you can see all the Victorian dinosaurs, because it was completely anathema to the Victorians that any animal which was better than any animal nowadays would have ever died out.
Yeah,
because the world has to move onwards because evolution. So that all of the dinosaurs that they discovered up to that point, they just projected these ideas of like just slovenly, slow creatures that were absolutely pathetic compared to what's around now. That's all tied to the very concept, Victorian mentality. Yeah.
The very concept of ascribing a word like better, there being any, like, by what measure?
Totally.
Well, and that's the thing is, and this is all very Eurocentric, but like from a Victorian British perspective, you're the end of history. you're colonizing the world. You're fixing everything. You're bringing everyone up to British levels. That's their perspective at the time. And you see that drip through all of the sciences and the politics and then, yes, tied to evolution and then eugenics and the idea of, oh, well, maybe we can make humans better and blah, 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 blah. And it's just, it goes interesting ways. And then something happens in the mid 1900s that kind of puts the whole eugenicist thing to bed and we all move on, which is good.
What's that?
Yeah, well, hopefully, yes.
Hopefully, for now, until Clavicular comes along.
I think, well, in his defense, I don't even know anything. I've never actually seen how he phrases this, but it doesn't seem like he's actually going in the. It's like almost like self-eugenics.
There's definitely no. Unfortunately, there is definitely some right-wing eugenicist stuff tied into it.
He is in trying to encourage other men to do what he does, I believe. At the very least, it's not all.
There's definitely a correlation between the rise of kind of right-wing politics in young men and this stuff. There's definitely, I don't know enough about it to know that all the links, but there's something going on.
Which, when it comes down to it, I think a lot of that, like this is the first generation of young men who have been more conservative than the women of said generation, also comes down to community. I think a lot of that is that they young men don't feel a sense of community in a lot of places, and they do on the right, which also gives them that thing to hate, right? So there is a, like, incels, it's certainly that. It's very hateful, but they have people that they talk to in relationships where they don't necessarily feel that way outside of those spaces. Basically, everybody just needs a hug at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And that hasn't changed since Pompeii, when that person died hugging their dog. Relatable.
And that was one of the positions on the wall at the bottom.
No!
Yeah, to your point, and also just to be clear about the whole people in the past were not lesser, but maybe simpler. In my understanding of the truest essence of that statement is that it's that their brains were not fundamentally less capable than ours, but obviously they had way less access to information the way we do, and so they would probably strike us as simple insofar as the range of topics that they would have come across is just, I don't see how it could not pragmatically be less.
It's a fundamental flaw of us as a species, right? Is that we massively overinflate our sense of self. And we're actually just nodes in one organism, right? Our knowledge and our ability is the entire accumulation of everyone before us, right? Like we are one set of eyes, but ultimately humanity moves on. The individual node of the Homo sapien does not. I guess that's my point. Like, if you could time travel someone from 2,000 years ago to now, they could get a degree. Like, they could be as smart as anyone else. If they were in our education, right?
Yeah, they would exactly. They would not be incapable of, like, from a neurological standpoint. They might be emotionally overwhelmed, but they would not. There's nothing sort of half cooked about their brain, which would be true across all human cultures and groups and blah, blah, blah. The thing that I remember the book, which interestingly, I know there's been a lot of pushback. A scientist friend of mine said that she felt this book had been discredited. I have read the debunking.
Yeah, you're about to say Sapiens. That's the
Sapiens it's a book called Guns, Germs, and Steel. That begins with the proposition at the beginning. Why did the Europeans sort of develop ships and guns and horseback riding and invade the Americas and not the other way around? Because humans had civilizations on both continents for pretty similar amounts of time. And so what essentially gave Europe a developmental advantage to be able to just come in and be so largely uncontested? And the main thesis of the book is that, the geography of Europe, just by dumb luck, lends itself well to much more rapid transmission of ideas and technology where people are able to build on one another's innovations. And it has nothing to do, because he begins the book by saying in no uncertain terms, Native Americans were not less smart. Let's be very clear, like the looking at the noble savage and all those Victorian concepts. He's like, let's make sure to set that aside straight from the onset. He spends the first part of the book saying there was no intrinsic disadvantage So there has to be another thing. He largely attributes it to environment. And, he, for example, one of his claims, which was one of the ones that is contested a little bit, is that the Eurasian continent is largely oriented east-west, which means that you have large spans along similar longitudes where crops can easily move because the climate is going to be relatively similar, but going north and south, climate varies much more rapidly. And so, whereas the Americas are decidedly north-south oriented, so there's just a slower transmission of being able to build stable civilizations. Again, that claim
What's the argument against that? That seems logical.
That it's overemphasizing that it's saying that climate it's oversimplifying sort of climate and crop variability. I think a claim that it's hard to I haven't read a specific challenge on this claim, but he also shows the amount like civilization essentially began in what is the modern day kind of Iraq, sort of Middle East area. And so much of modern civilizations began right there in what was at the time called the Fertile Crescent. It's not the only spot, obviously, but it's one of the major hubs that so much came out of. And he looks at it and he goes, the amount of natively available domesticable crops, that things that naturally grew that you can actually, intentionally form into crops, because not every plant on Earth can be grown as a crop. Like there's only so many of them. And they have by far the highest concentration of them, again, by dumb luck. So it's one of those, when you look at it through a kind of deterministic lens, you would say, wherever on the Earth the highest concentration of those kinds of things are going to be is almost certainly, if you were to just go back 500,000 years and go, all right, everybody place your bets. Where on Earth is going to be? If you were to know that that's the kind of variable you're looking for, you could go, well, it's how could it not be here? It's to me, that's no different than one of the points Neil deGrasse Tyson is always so fond of harping on, that what a shock that humans are principally made of carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen, by far the most abundant elements found in the universe.
Yeah.
It would be weird if we were made of hyper rare stuff when you think about it. So of course things are gonna leverage what's abundantly available. So to me, Guns, Germs, and Steel I found it amazing. I haven't read it in many years. I'd be curious to read it again if
I'm again,
learning
so
everything
what
since
I'm
then
just
doesn't
reading
pass
on the
notice.
synopsis of this book is the book proposes that the environmental and geographical conditions of Eurasia and North Africa provided significant advantages such as access to a greater variety of domesticable plants, animals, as well as east-west continental axis that allowed for easier transfer of crops, livestock, and technologies, which those conditions accelerated development of agriculture, population growth, and political complexity. That seems so agreeable to me that
That's why I say I found it. I was shocked when now, in fairness, my friend, that this is her field or close to it, paleopathology, and she studies human origins. And so I took a lot of weight in the fact that she was pretty dismissive of that book when I brought it up, just because she's spent her whole life in that field. And I obviously am an armchair. I read that book.
Sure.
Interesting. And he wrote a follow-up book called Collapse, which I also found was interesting, which was basically about the flip. It was the civilizations that didn't make it, why that was mostly a function of their choices.
But there's a part here that highlights that he specifically argues against the idea that Eurasian homogeny is due to any form of Eurasian intellectual, moral, or inherent genetic superiority, which I would hope we can all agree with.
Yes, I think we should be able to agree on that.
I think we can all agree on that one.
Yeah,
glad to
there's
hear
definitely
it.
people who don't, unfortunately.
I'm gonna buy it.
I will say, in the world of, I thought it was good. I mean, I think he won like a Pulitzer for that book, I think, or was a finalist for it. I mean, it was a pretty big deal when it came out. I might be remembering that wrong, but Jared Diamond is the name of the author. In any case, to that point, and bring it full circle on the whole kind of incentives and social structures and how we're wired. As you see online and Reddit and whatever, this, rise in the kind of just people being overtly racist as if it's like 1940s. I'm skeptical how deeply held those convictions are, like that, because I think the problem is there's such an incentive, there's such a social reward online for being a nasty troll, that because both both because it draws people who like nasty trolls to you, and because there's a weird thrill, and you can get paid. So I think it's one of those where I go, if you were to sit down across from a lot of those people, certainly not all. I'm not so doe-eyed idealistic to say that not everyone means what they say, but I bet you a lot of those people, will later go, that was really stupid of me.
I don't know that they would
I
do
want
that.
to believe that's true. I want very hard to believe that's true.
Yeah, I don't know.
I worry that polling data implies otherwise.
I don't know that they're going to self-reflect, but I do think that a lot of them,
maybe not, but I hope so,
doing this stuff for attention and gain, and not because they actually believe it. I mean, if you look at a lot of the video game right-wing content creators, it's quite clear a lot of them haven't played the games that they critique. They talk about them for 2 seconds and they have talking points about black person, woman, but they've clearly not played the games. So no, they can't hold those beliefs. Those beliefs exist because they are inflammatory and they'll succeed on social media and thus they make money. I don't think they all believe all the shit that they say. They can't. They haven't seen the thing.
Also, just the mask. It makes me think of a very old Louis C.K. bit where he was like, try saying, when you're in your car and someone cuts you off and you're like, I will fucking cut your throat. He goes, say that to someone next time you're in an elevator. And it's like the things that we will consider acceptable when there's those
context.
Buffers.
Oh yeah, sure.
Or anonymity. That's where I go, I think most people wouldn't say that in an elevator. Yeah, some people might think it, but there's just enough built-in social grace that they'll bite their tongue, but they might think it. But I suspect most couldn't bring themselves to look someone in the eye and actually say something like that. But when it's just a few clicks of the fingers and then, hey, look at that, people think I'm funny or whatever. I think there's
people
such
are
a strong
rude to me
incentive.
online all day, every day. I've only had it maybe like twice in person ever, where someone was like internet rude.
I'll fix that. I'll be very
We gotta
rude
up
to
those
you.
numbers.
I've apologized, Alana. I've apologized repeatedly.
And it was the
It was
two
a
of
long
you.
day. Yeah. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so that's where look, I know I default to a very optimistic view of things, but I also think people are fundamentally good, and that the problem is, there's an old Einstein quote where he says, he was referring to the development of nuclear weapons, but social media may as well be what he was talking about, where he says something like, I think the quote is, our main problem is a perfection of means, but a confusion of aims, where we develop things. It's the Ian Malcolm. We're so preoccupied on whether we could, we're not stopping to think if we should. It's the same general principle. And I think that, my hope is that I've been holding to this for 15 years and I have yet to see a shred of evidence that this will come to pass, but I'm still clinging to it like the freaking
Confirmation bias.
Japanese soldiers on Iwo Jima, long after the war is over, and like, no way, I'm still here. I will cling to this hope. I think that we're still in this growth pain period of social media where people are growing up around it, and you're starting to see, I hope you're seeing the now that we have parents, people are becoming parents who grew up with it and going, yeah, all right, this is not how we raise. Like, I have a friend who's an engineer. He's a programmer who had a kid a year or two ago, and we were at dinner and he goes, my kid loves singing Alan Menken Disney songs, like from Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast. And he has no idea what they're from. And I said, what do you mean? Because we play them because on the speakers, because we removed all screens from the house for indefinitely. And it's not clear yet when we will introduce screens, no devices, no TV, no anything. But we listen to music, we read books, we interact. And this is an engineer. He lives in technology. This is not a Luddite, but this is someone who is looking at the data of how fucked up how easily one becomes really fucked up developmentally when your whole world is on screens before you even know how to talk. And obviously having an aggressive like they joined a very bougie Bay Area school where all the other parents feel the same way. So there's no screens at the school and no kid can be a vector to introducing it to the other kids and infecting them. And to me, it's fascinating. And you see more and more interest in
this
people.
kid's going to rebel by buying a TV in their teens. Like, that's
Maybe.
Have I said on
It
this
could
show
be that
before
it's
that
an
my parents wouldn't let me play video games as a kid when I brought up that little nutshell? Yeah.
So this is your long protest.
Well, basically, like, it was because the second I got my, started visiting, friends who had computer games, that's all I wanted to do around friends' houses and stuff. So your friend's kid is going to become like a TV producer. That's what
I have a buddy that was raised. He was put up for adoption, and so his parents. He was adopted into a Mormon family. And actually, only in the last 3 or 4 years met his biological mother, and he knew he was adopted growing up, but was otherwise, this is my family. And so growing up in Utah to a Mormon family, he became a science major in college. He was like, physics was my punk music. And so you're not wrong. I think there probably is a healthy, I think there undoubtedly is a healthy medium. Being completely hands off as parents about screens clearly has it. I mean, we're seeing the consequences of it. And this is the whole, like, if you've heard of Jonathan Haidt, he wrote a book called like The Anxious Generation or something like that, where, there's people that there's millions of kids that they know how to type I love you through an instant message, but they can't look you in the eye to save their life while they're talking. He's pushing, his big thing is at least until they're 16. Think of it like
it's what they did in Australia.
Yeah. Oh, and he loved that. He was like, that's like, he may have even been involved in helping advise on that legislation because this is such a big thing for him.
What is in Australia? Kids aren't allowed.
Social media is banned for under 16s.
Oh, really?
You have to provide ID. And I'm generally staunchly against
wonder how enforceable
censorship.
that is.
I'm sure it's very difficult. But that one, I am glad I didn't have too much social media when I was a kid, because I can't even, when it was introduced, I was maybe 14, and it was awful. Like, it was, especially at school, people making fake accounts to harass each other, and it became such a big thing, and it's so much easier to do now. So I don't know. I think that social media has gone to shit. It sucks now, so I barely use it when I used to really enjoy it. And so my thoughts that maybe we all just go, well, it ran its course and it fucking sucks now, and then we just leave. Like, that's how I'm feeling about it. But
unfortunately, the data implies that people are doing the absolute opposite, which sucks.
It's so terrible now, though.
We are using it more than ever.
It's not even fun anymore. And it used to. I keep feeling like it's very odd that I have a nostalgia for a place that doesn't exist. I miss the internet, which is really strange. That I'm like, man, it was a really good time back in the day for this thing that's no longer there anymore.
Forums. Do you remember fucking forums?
Yeah,
they were the best.
Yeah, good times.
Good shit.
Yeah, and now every time I Google something, I have to put Reddit on the end because all the fucking answers are the. Anyway, speaking of things that have changed, James Bond.
Yeah, I have to go in like 5 minutes, so let me know your thoughts.
It's really good. It's interesting. It's gonna. I've not read any reviews, but I imagine its biggest challenge is going to be that maybe it falls between a few different marks in terms of genre. But
I've heard it's mixed with Uncharted and Hitman, which to me sounds great.
Yeah, it is exactly that. It is exactly that. Like, it's someone asked me earlier, and that was my answer. Was imagine a Hitman where between locations in Hitman you do like an hour and a half of Uncharted each time. It is cool. I'm enjoying it a lot.
The review, I listened to SkillUp's review this morning, and that was very much. He was like, I think this game is awesome. He had big shout outs to the voice actors, and he said it's some of the best in class. Face capture he's ever seen. He was like,
which is insane. And even in the non-cutscene stuff, there's a character, there's a friend of Bond's, because I don't want to say too much because it's genuinely quite cool.
I will play it. I just have to.
But like, there's a character early on where she was making facial expressions in like just your standard kind of, you're walking around a world and you click to interact and the camera zooms down, like the gameplay animation rather than the cutscene animation. She was doing like facial expressions and smirks and eye rolls and stuff. And I was like, I don't think I've seen that. That was like,
I don't know what engine they use.
Touching on Naughty Dog.
It's their custom
touching
engine.
on Naughty Dog.
Yeah, same one
which
they
they quietly, which with Hitman, like, and you can see all of that refinement. Like, it feels like a very mature game in sense of like the technological prowess of the team. There's a really clever, about the second level of the game does a technical approach, which they start to do it, and you're like, are you going for this? And then it's that for about an hour, and it's incredible. And it's something that, like, from a technical perspective is amazing. It's been done slightly before, very subtly in other games, but like they blow it out of the water.
Cool.
But the kinds of stuff you can only do when you've been making effectively Hitman for 10 years, right?
Which I genuinely think that I would put Hitman World of Assassination, which I mean, I'm including 3 games in it, but I would put that in my top 10 games in the generation. It fucking
it's
rocks.
My game. It's the best.
So fun.
And I would say this is not a good Hitman sequel. I would say that to Hitman fans, that it is not trying to be. It's trying
That's exactly
to be...
what Skillup said.
Oh, really?
His review was like, if you're an IO fan who's super into Hitman, he goes, it's nowhere near as complex of a system-y game the way Hitman invites you. Yeah. Like the immersive sim, it's sort of light immersive sim compared to those games, because he goes, that's not the Bond thing. He goes, I don't think that would have been the Bond fantasy.
Doesn't struggle to come up with a solution. Bond moves forward and executes. I think that's what they've really
more aggressive
tried to do.
And
the combat system, like that's a lot of the interaction complexity has gone into the combat side of things, and there's a lot of very nice combat mechanics in there.
He said that
good.
Yeah, he said similarly, if you're an Uncharted diehard, it might be too immersive sim for you. He goes.
That's what I'm saying with falling between two. There's going to be players in this round who are not.
I think I'm totally in the middle of that. That sounds dope.
No, people who. It's what Austin's saying. If you're an Uncharted fan,
I'm saying in the Venn diagram,
where you're like, what should I do next?
But I'm in the middle of that for sure.
And you're good.
So am I.
But it's going to be interesting. I think there are going to be mixed reactions from. There's going to be a lot of Hitman players who are annoyed that it's more Hitman than I was expecting. And it definitely leans into. I did not expect it to have all of the kind of the meta replayability of Hitman, and they literally go in and they have like escalation missions and stuff like that from Hitman, which I had no idea they were doing that with this. It's very cool. It's pared down. It's simplified. It's not quite as deep as Hitman, but it's. I think that stuff's very cool. And in production value, it's amazing. The writing is genuinely excellent. I don't know, I've not played the whole thing, so I can't speak to the story, but from a dialogue, it's quippy, but it's quippy in a Bond way rather than a Marvel way. Like, it's very good at kind of British witticism rather than kind of, I can't believe we're doing this.
They fly now.
It's the thing, they're not breaking the fourth wall, they're quipping within the context. There are moments, like there's a point where a character refers to it, they're rebooting MI6. That's weird, everyone's so young now. Like, there's some gags like that in there, but it's very character driven, it's very character led. You fall in love with the main characters in the first couple of chapters. It's great.
The history of Bond has gone through a lot of phases of how quickly it was as well. And I think generally all the most beloved, like Daniel Craig and Sean Connery, I feel like are the two sort of eras that are probably the highest rated, broadly speaking, and they're the least quippy. Because obviously Roger Moore was all quippy, and basically so was Pierce Brosnan. But
I think the difference is, I agree with you, but I don't think they were less quippy. I think they were better written and more character-led humor, more charm. The reason people like Daniel Craig and Sean Connery is because they're fucking charming, right? And they're joking and they're having fun and they are making little jokes as they go around. But it's it's in character. It's not Pierce Brosnan staring down the lens and going, "Wow, that was toasty."
I mean, you remember? Have you watched On Her Majesty's Secret Service at all or recently? You remember the first line? It's the one and only George Lazenby after Connery finally left. Where it's like, you don't look like the other guy or something like that, right? They were so terrified of people rejecting a non-Connery Bond that the movie opens with a car chase where we keep showing like close-ups of him lighting a cigarette, his hands. We're doing everything we can to not see his face as he is chasing a girl along like she's in her car, he's in his car. They're going along the classic like winding seaside
road. Were you
road.
Expecting the other guy? What's the line?
She stops and runs off into the water as if she's going to kill herself. He chases after her. We still haven't seen his face. She jumps in, he grabs her, pulls her out of the water, resuscitates her, and she slaps him, and he looks up directly at camera and goes, that never happened to the other guy.
That's it. That never happened to the other guy.
And then it shows an opening credit sequence where they do the Bond theme and whatever, the only Bond theme that doesn't have lyrics and vocals. It's a fucking awesome theme by John Barry.
It's that one, right?
That's we have all the time in the world.
Yeah.
But this one is it's purely instrumental, going bum 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 bum.
Oh yeah.
And it's got a big synthesizer part, which is also very unusual for Bond. And but anyway, during the opening credits, when normally it's all the like silhouettes of dancing girls, it's literally like a greatest hits of all the fucking Connery scenes from the previous, to be like, just stay with us, please, for the love of, remember how awesome it was. Like, yeah,
that was a big, like, the first time, that was a big ask of the audience to kind of, for the character to survive on to a different.
Well, there probably hadn't ever been prior to that
Doctor
a movie
Who
franchise.
probably is the only precedent.
Yeah.
But it's baked into the lore.
Yeah.
Well, they wrote it. Yeah, they added that in. Yeah, I think my point is
that was added in.
This,
that was not always. That wasn't baked in from the start.
No, it was written in when they had to replace the actor. They added that as a concept.
I never knew that.
Yeah. No, that was never. They were no. That was never the brilliance
Wasn't
of Doctor Who. At no point was there a plan. There was no plan in Doctor Who ever. There still isn't.
That's funny. Well, for what it's worth. Sorry,
the kid's charm. Sorry, all I was saying was they cast the right guy in the main role. He's charming. He plays it very soft spoken, because that's the other thing with Bond that's fascinating, and it's going to be interesting with whatever they do with a new movie. Is the character is from the 60s, right? Like, so it's misogynist, it's gung ho, there's a lot of baggage with Bond that's they've always got to be in conversation with, and they seem to have zeroed in on he's a charming douchebag. As like, but not in like a sarcastic. They're not being mean about the character, but like you really are rooting for him within a half hour. And the opening scene, which again I don't want to spoil, but like is not what you expect from a Bond game at all. But just you are 45 minutes into the game, you want that guy to achieve everything in life he wants to achieve. You know what I mean?
Great, yeah, because it's a
really
typical sort of, right? Like it's an origin story ish.
Yeah, and more so than I was expecting. I'll put it that way. Yeah,
Skill Up's review also goes to great lengths to praise that actor and to the exact same tune that you just said, where he's like, this guy plays him perfectly, and it's really well written insofar as Bond, to make Bond not like a thirsty dude would be to not really be Bond, but there's a way to not make him come off like a creepy predator also. You know what I mean?
They're very clever with it. They're very, like, there are a few, I don't know who wrote this, but I need to look up who the writing team on this was, because there's a lot of
Tom Bissell wrote on it for a really long time. He didn't ship it, but he wrote on it.
Well, he's fucking great, so that doesn't surprise me. But the number of things in the first few hours where it feels like it might be, especially with the lecherous kind of Playboy thing, where you like, oh, are they going towards, and then they zag, and they kind of they're definitely working around that, and they're aware that that's there, and he's Bond, so he's going to get the girl. Like, but the way it plays with your expectations around that, and how it kind of makes him, a good guy that you are rooting for in the story is very nicely done. And then just all the casting of the secondary cast, it's genuinely like, if you told me this was the cast for a movie, I'd be happy with it. Especially a lot of them are British character actors who, like, if you're British, they're on everything.
Yeah.
So it's one of those casts as well.
If you're
Earl
British,
Paddington too.
Everything.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean, Austin, though. It's like
I know. I just love that
Game
phrasing.
of Thrones is one thing for Americans, but it's a different thing for British people, where it's like, oh, it's everyone from EastEnders and Coronation Street.
Rahul's been on both of those shows.
Rahul's
been on both EastEnders and Coronation Drive, or whatever it is.
Was he ever on the build? Did he do the trilogy?
I don't think he's done the build.
The bill. Ask him if he's done the build.
I'll check. Mildly related, but we just watched, well, for me, it was the first time watching Bourne Identity on like Friday night. Great Bond movie, man. Really good Bond film.
You know who wrote it? Tony Gilroy.
No way. There you go.
Yeah.
It's excellent.
You can see the Bourne franchise.
Yeah, I haven't seen the next two yet.
But had you
there's-
seen Daniel Craig's Bond? So you've
Yes.
seen the kind of
Which
you've
Rahul
seen
did tell
the
me.
Bond, the
Bond
Bond
that was
that's based on
influenced
Bourne
by
Identity,
Bourne,
basically.
yes,
Yeah.
which I
It's
love. I
interesting.
love
It's
the
interesting.
scrappier, like more brutal kind of vibe that I think that like they took all the right lessons. It was rad. Really, really enjoyed it.
The insane editing of
So well
Bourne
edited.
Identity. It was shot on film. It was before everything was just default, shot digitally, basically, and filming on film is a novelty. I remember seeing Doug Liman give a talk, and he mentioned how they, in order to facilitate the level of hyperkinetic editing that they wanted to achieve in that movie, they shot 1,000 hours, 1,000,000 feet of film.
Holy shit!
And when you
doesn't
watch
shock
it, even by today's standards, where there's infinite film stock, it still feels hyperactive. It's like he throws a punch, and in the span of 1 second, we get it from 7 angles. Like it's just
it's great
bananas.
in that
Really
movie,
like
but
it,
it did
though.
spawn. It spawned 100 badly edited films, though, right? Like,
of course,
it
it's
was
the same
excellent,
as like the
but,
Matrix
that was
bullet time
definitely-
thing.
Yeah.
You know, you're
100%.
watching Charlie's Angels, going, "Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Why are they lifting the like?" It worked because it was narratively in world for the Matrix in a way that made it a thing, and it's so silly to knock that off. And yeah, for sure, Bourne is a don't try this at home. To me, that movie, also John Powell, it is the defining modern action score. Everyone knocked off that score for the next 20 years after that.
I didn't realize it had so much influence. Again, Rahul did tell me before we started watching, but and you can definitely see it in the Craig Bond for sure. But very good.
And what I love about those kinds of movies, I love movies like I love the Indiana Jones flavor character, which Bond can get a little bit close to at times, of the improv. It's not so much that I'm a genius, it's that I'm really good on my toes.
Yeah.
What I love about Bourne and things like, and you feel this in Andor as well, which it's a Tony Gilroy thing, presumably, is it's like, he's just exceptionally competent. It's not that he's this amazing improviser. It's that he's always thinking 17 moves ahead.
Even when he doesn't want to, he's like embarrassed about it at first. It's
doesn't even understand it.
Have you seen the thing that Netflix reckons that's like secretly one of the most popular genres in film? Competence porn. You heard that?
No.
Netflix have like released basically Netflix's theory is that there is a genre that's kind of a tangential genre, which is that people, it's not been quantified before, but that people really like watching people who are smart competently achieve
succeed at things. No way.
And it's not hero's narrative. It's not, hero with 1,000 faces or anything. It's specifically competent person executes on competency, to the point where Netflix
John Wick
like actively commission projects based on that, which is why so many fucking Netflix shows or movies are about heists, because that's a
competence
format
porn.
where it's about
No way.
competency.
Huh.
But that's also why people like The Big Short. It's why people like The Social Network. It's like
John Wick.
It's John Wick. It's people like watching professionals. There's also, like, I don't know if I believe this completely, but like there's a theory that that's because so many people feel like the modern world, it's very hard to be competent. You're kind of always on the back foot, or you're kind of
just
always
comforting
out,
watching someone in control in a world that is out of control.
For what it's worth, I would not put John Wick in that category, even though theoretically it qualifies. But for me, I don't watch it as this is someone who's just to me, it's more like dance choreography. I look at John Wick and this feels more like I'm at a ballet.
Well, that was my
I
pitch.
agree with that,
That's how I got the gig, because I basically went in and said, you don't make a John Wick action game, you make a John Wick choreography sim. And we did, and that was our take on it. And we'll see.
And
R.I.P.
I heartily agree with that instinct, obviously. To me, it's competence porn from the standpoint of the stunt choreography less than the character of John Wick himself.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Which is its own form of competence porn, in the same way that
beat the fuck up. So he's not that competent.
Rolls downstairs.
Like there are some movies that I will watch. Again, it's sort of like a layer abstracted from the competence porn as a genre, but the idea of there are some movies that I would watch sheerly for the brilliance of their execution. Like they're just so, like, a good example is the Frank Marshall Memoirs of a Geisha, which is a deeply, deeply flawed movie, but so unbelievably beautifully shot that it's basically just the most mesmerizing visual feast, and score, it's I think, the final masterpiece of John Williams. It is one of the best looking and sounding movies. It's just all of its other problems are such that I really wouldn't call it a great movie.
That's me with Gareth Edwards movies. Like every Gareth Edwards movie I love because he's a great graphic designer and composition guy.
Yeah, like the creator.
They're not great films, but I love every one of
Style.
his for that reason.
Yeah, I thought the
His style over
execution of the
substance
creator
with
was
stuff,
great,
yeah.
even though that
Even
movie
his
did
Jurassic
nothing for me.
Park is hot.
Oh,
Like
no,
there's
those I
not an
can't
ugly
handle.
frame in that. Yeah, his Jurassic Park. Weirdly, I know.
I
it's
wish
not
I agreed.
Beloved. I just the design, the particular shade of orange in the UI in the opening scene.
Look,
is
he'll
gorgeous.
forever be in my good graces for the the first and only great Star Wars film made in decades. Is his, and I
That's Rogue
haven't
One,
seen
right? Was his
that Rogue One.
Yeah.
Yeah. To me, Rogue One is rises to the level of the original film.
Again, and aesthetically, like so much of this,
Oh,
so much
it's
of what
phenomenal.
makes Andor. I mean, Andor obviously incredibly written, incredibly made show, but the visual iconography of that show is established in Rogue One. Like that idea
Totally.
of like how we're
Well,
going to
although
interpret
I
Star
think
Wars.
Andor goes in its own
Oh,
direction.
it goes
Now that we're on
beyond,
Star Wars,
but
I
yeah.
feel like it's really important for me to say that I must leave, or we could be here for another half hour.
That's true. Actually,
That's
I gotta
fair.
go. I'm late for a meeting. so I
Me
gotta
too.
go.
Everyone's
Take
late to Star Wars.
This play was I didn't even say anything at all that time. I just gave up.